At some point in their lives, 85% of people will have low self-esteem because they talk badly to themselves. That is a big enough number to make us stop and think, what is going through our minds? Killing your bad thoughts is a tough but life-changing topic that we're going to talk about in depth today. It's not enough to just silence our inner judge. We need to give ourselves the tools to live fuller lives. People who follow the Stoic path have a deep understanding that their thoughts are not just quiet words in their heads. They are the loud voices that decide their happiness or suffering. Stoic knowledge tells us that we can change how we see the world, but the world might not change how we see it. The Stoics were more than just ancient philosophers. They were also the greatest mental warriors, using reason and inner calm to fight against the power of uncontrolled thoughts and feelings. Today, I'm going to help you understand how these negative thoughts affect us and look at some useful Stoic ways to deal with them. So we will learn how to use the power of our thoughts to build a life that is not limited by bad things, but driven by good things like wisdom, courage, justice, and moderation. I want you to stay with me if you're not sure. This could make you question some of the most important things you believe, but it will also help you grow in new ways. Before we start, I want to ask you to share this movie with other people who are also trying to grow as a person and learn more about philosophy. If you like the ideas we're talking about here and want to help us on our way to becoming calm, please do me a favor and click the subscribe button. Now, let's begin. Negative thinking isn't just a nuisance or a short-lived bad mood. It's a widespread problem that can have a big effect on every part of our lives. From how we feel when we wake up into the teeth about the tape into decisions we make about our health, jobs, and relationships. These feelings can make it hard to do things. Why do people really think negatively? It comes down to always expecting the worst, putting down our own efforts, and thinking we are less capable or worthy than we really are. Now, why do we keep falling for this? Stoic thinkers thought that what bothers us is not what happens, but how we think about it. A famous quote from Epictetus says, "Men are disturbed not by things, but by the view which they take of them." This way of looking at things is key to understanding why we think negatively. Truth itself doesn't always limit us. Sometimes it's how we see the world that does. Carl Jung's study of the mind gives us more information. He understood that a lot of the negative thoughts we have come from the unconscious parts of our minds, called the personal and group unconscious. Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." We can start to lessen their power over us by examining these unconscious biases and beliefs. Think about how this affects our daily lives for a moment. If we think negatively about a problem, we might feel like we've already lost before we even start, which stops us from doing the things that would help us succeed. When you're rowing hard in a boat, you might not notice that you're attached to the shore. You're not getting anywhere, no matter how hard you try. Stoicism teaches us to think about our negative beliefs in a rational and critical way, and to question whether or not these beliefs are true. What in his Meditations, Marcus Aurelius tells us to carefully consider our thoughts and get rid of any that don't make sense or aren't helpful. This kind of self-reflection helps us break free from negative thought habits and take back control of our minds. Let's not forget how much our social and cultural background affects us. This world is full of messages that say people are not successful, wealthy, or smart enough. It's easy to see how negative thoughts can start to take over. These messages often take root in our minds and grow into weeds of doubt and fear that stop us from reaching our full potential. Stoicism, on the other hand, gives us the tools to get rid of these negative thoughts and plant a field of positive ones that will help us. We're going to talk about this problem of negative thought today. You can't just ignore or get rid of bad thoughts. You have to really understand them, question them, and then replace them with well-thought-out, positive thoughts. This Stoic way of life isn't just about getting by, it's about living by taking control of our thoughts. We are in charge of how we see things and, by extension, our lives. As we go on, let's remember that every thought we choose to think and every thought we choose to fight is a step toward the life we really want to live. Understanding where bad thoughts come from is important if we want to deal with them in a healthy way. It's not enough to just name bad habits. We need to find the deep-seated causes that shape how we see things and how our minds work. The negative thoughts can come from many places, such as our upbringing, societal pressures, past mistakes, and even words from people around us that don't seem to matter. There are seeds of doubt, fear, and limitation that can grow from each of these things, and they can all grow into a chronic state of negativity. A lot of us are exposed to places that might not help our self-esteem from a very young age. Think about a child who is told over and over that they are not smart enough, or in an educational system that seems to only recognize students who are perfect. These events can have a big effect on how we see the world. It was Aristotle who said, "We are what we repeatedly do." This means that excellence is not an action but a habit. When we think about the mind in this way, we can see that having negative thoughts over and over again can turn into a habit of seeing ourselves and our skills in a less positive light. These negative stories are strengthened by the times we have failed and been turned down. When we fail or get negative feedback, it can reinforce a negative thought that says, "I knew I couldn't do it." This can become a self-fulfilling prophecy, not because we lack the ability, but because we start to act in ways that support our negative views. Plato's idea that the mind makes reality, we can change our reality by changing our mind, is very important in this situation. For we can start to break down the base of our negative thoughts by looking at and questioning how we see these events. Fear is another important thing that can make you think negatively. That's how our bodies are designed, to protect us. But it can turn into too much worry or anxiety, clouding our judgment. So when you're afraid of failing, the unknown, or being turned down, you might think of the worst things that could happen. This is called catastrophic thinking. Stoicism has a way to deal with this problem, the premeditation of sins. This means picturing the worst-case scenario in great detail, so that it has less of an effect on your emotions when or if it actually happens. A lot of the bad things we think come from unconscious views we formed as kids thanks to our parents, teachers, and the media. Most of the time we don't question these unconscious ideas because our conscious mind doesn't fully understand them. By becoming aware of these ideas, we can take back control of our minds and make them less powerful. It's also important not to forget about societal and cultural forces. Society often stresses competition and lack of resources, setting very high standards that may seem impossible to reach. Being around people who are always comparing themselves to others can make you feel like you're never good enough. Stoicism tells us to stop focusing on what other people think of us and instead focus on what we do well within ourselves. It tells us to measure our success by how much we grow as people and not by how we compare to others. Negative thoughts have many and complicated causes, such as past events, feelings, deep-seated fears, and messages from society. We can start to understand and break out of these negative thought patterns, though, by using the best ideas from Western philosophy and psychology, especially the Stoic emphasis on taking charge of our thoughts and actions. This in-depth knowledge not only lessens their effects, but it also gives us the power to rebuild our minds in a way that is more positive and strong. When we talk about renewing our thoughts, we're not just suggesting a short-term effort to think more positively. We're calling for a deep and long-lasting change in the way we talk to ourselves. Here we'll talk about how to develop a mindset that helps us not only live but also thrive. The Stoic thinkers have taught us that we can achieve this by systematically thinking about our thoughts and shaping them in a way that promotes peace and resilience. One of the main ideas behind Stoicism is that our feelings and behaviors are caused by our thoughts, and we can change these thoughts. Marcus Aurelius, a Stoic emperor and philosopher, said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This powerful statement reminds us that we can start to renew ourselves by taking charge of our thoughts, checking them for accuracy, and then making sure they are in line with our true intentions and values. Aristotle also has something useful to say about this. He said, "Knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom." This journey of self-reflection includes looking deeply into our thought patterns to find the ones that help us and the ones that get in the way of our goals. As we become more aware of our thoughts, we can start to fight the bad ones that may have become ingrained over time. When we question and change our thoughts, we're not trying to hide our feelings. Instead, we're trying to understand them better so that we can handle them better. In addition, Carl Jung's ideas about the human mind go well with this Stoic knowledge. Jung said that what you fight will not only stay with you, but it will also get bigger. Stoicism tells us not to fight our negative thoughts, but to recognize them, figure out where they came from, and decide if they are true. With this method, these thoughts don't get stuck in the dark corners of our minds, where they can grow without being stopped. It's also important to renew our minds by reading and doing things that make us feel good and help us grow. This could mean reading philosophical books that make us think about what we know, looking at art that moves us, or just taking some time to think and meditate. These activities give us new stories and points of view that can change our old stories that don't help. Socrates' demand that people should live carefully thought-out lives is very important here. So we're constantly thinking about our beliefs and the thoughts that come from them. We renew our minds in a way that keeps them sharp and our spirits in line with our philosophical goals. This ongoing examination isn't just a job. It's a way of life that keeps our minds fresh and our experiences in touch with reality. Plato also said it was important to be in line with the forms which are the best versions of justice, beauty, and goodness. In the same way, renewing our minds can be seen as an attempt to align our thoughts with the best and most powerful parts of ourselves. Strong, caring, and deeply wise sense of self is formed by striving for these goals. To make all of this work, we can begin each day with a simple statement or a calm reflection that sets the tone for the thoughts we want to grow. At Kleinactals houses to leave dance from the D. To fend or one, end into one of fine, predate these daily habits, like a quote from Epictetus about how powerful our reactions are, or a Jungian mantra that tells us we are strong when we face our fears, are what build a new mind. If this principle says that we should choose the people, places, and sources that support and improve our mental and emotional health. Seneca reportedly said, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you." This advice tells us to be picky about the people we hang out with and to make friends who push us to grow. When Aristotle talked about relationship, he also talked about how important the people we hang out with are. He said there are three kinds of friendships: those that are useful, those that are fun, and those that are good. Friendship between good people is the best and most valuable kind because both people respect, and these are the kinds of connections that push us to grow as people. Because they are based on a shared desire for virtue and achievement, they are naturally good. In addition, Plato's metaphor of the cave shows us how our surroundings can change how we see the world. The people who lived in the cave thought that the shadows on the walls were real, because that's all they had seen. One of them learns how little he knows when he escapes and sees the world outside. This makes him able to reach a higher level of knowledge. This metaphor does a great job of showing how adding positive and enlightening effects to our surroundings can completely change how we see things and what we understand. Carl Jung's thoughts about the archetypes and the collective unconscious also help us understand how important it is to surround ourselves with good things. Jung says that memories and ideas that everyone shares shape our minds, but these memories and ideas make up the collective unconscious. These parts of our culture that we all share shape how we see the world and ourselves. We can change the archetypes that run through our minds from ones that focus on fear and not being good enough to ones that focus on strength and reaching our full potential by picking environments that are supportive and positive. And putting ourselves in situations where we feel good means more than just being around happy people. It means doing things that help us reach our mental and life goals. And it means being a part of communities, both online and off, where conversations are based on support and helpful comments instead of criticism and negativity. It means we have to be careful about the media we watch, read, or listen to. And we have to choose books, movies, and TV shows that teach and inspire instead of ones that spread fear or sadness. Building a home and workplace that shows the values and virtues we respect is also part of it. Adult Stoic practice says that a clean and organized living space shows a clean and organized mind. Enripiren path from a wisros of thine fene, liwanted. This can be as easy as keeping our living spaces clean and organized, or it could mean decorating them with art and symbols that remind us of our philosophical commitments, such as courage, justice, moderation, and wisdom. And people still say what Seneca wrote, hold on to your youthful enthusiasms, you'll be able to use them better when you're older. When we surround ourselves with positive people, we are basically holding on to or growing enthusiasms that are in line with our better selves. In addition to making our own lives better, this sets a good example for the people in our groups, which creates a positive ripple effect. If we want to stop thinking negatively, the Stoics tell us that intention and understanding are not enough on their own. Taking action is necessary. The great Stoic philosopher Epictetus said, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. This simple advice brings out a deep truth: our goals must come alive in our actions as well as our thoughts. Socrates thought that taking action meant doing things that supported our intellectual beliefs. Every day we have to make decisions that are in line with our values of wisdom, justice, courage, and moderation. By acting in ways that reflect these virtues, we question the negative thoughts that tell us we aren't capable or worthy, changing our story to one of empowerment and self-efficacy. Aristotle's doctrine of the mean also stresses the importance of action. According to this theory, virtue is not just a state of mind, but also a state of character that comes from regularly picking the middle ground between too much and too little. This exercise is active by nature. Aristotle thought that we become fair by doing fair things, brave by doing brave things, and temperate by doing temperate things. So acting is not just a way to do, it is the way that you become good. And Plato's theory of forms, which says that to know the good is to do the good, also gives us insight into how action can change things. To put it another way, once you have true information, you have to act in the right way. So when we act in line with our Stoic view of virtue, we move closer to the Platonic ideal of good, which makes not only our minds better, but also our whole bodies. Carl Jung's idea of individuation, the psychological process of bringing together the awareness and unconscious to become fully human, adds to the evidence that we need to take action. Jung thought that we don't just become one with ourselves through reflection, but also through experiences with the world that make us question our current beliefs and push us to grow. You are what you do, not what you say you'll do. He says, emphasizing that our deeds show what kind of person we are and how mature our minds are. Dizing veen housemen de vida strista ponsabon a boy. The divine monde man nation. So Stoic action is more than just fighting off bad thoughts. It means actually living out the virtues that make up Stoicism. It's about making decisions, big and small, that show you want to improve yourself and are honest with your beliefs. And every choice we make, like how to handle a tough situation with kindness, facing a long-held fear, or forgiving someone who has hurt us. And Stoics don't avoid hard situations. Instead, they see them as chances to show how good they are. Every struggle is an opportunity to show how strong we are, how patient we are, or how committed we are to our values. To be Stoic in real life, we can set daily goals that are in line with our values, do community service that promotes fairness and kindness, or stick to habits like writing or meditation that help us think about things and control ourselves. And all of these things not only fight negative thoughts, but they also make you better and more moral. In Stoic philosophy, this suggestion shows that words have the power to affect us. He stressed that the virtues we practice, like honesty, restraint, and kindness, should flavor our words. By talking in a way that shows these traits, we strengthen our Stoic practice and spread its effects to those around us, making them better people. And Aristotle also adds to this discussion with his ideas of ethos, pathos, and logos, which show how powerful words can be. He said that credibility, ethos, emotional link, pathos, and logical argument, logos, are all important parts of good communication. Aristotle thought that the words we use and the way we speak not only tell others things, but also change and shape the world around us. When we talk, we don't just send information, we also change people's thoughts, feelings, and actions. There is also a deep respect for the precision and power of words in Plato's dialogues. For example, his Socratic dialogues show how Socrates used dialogue and questions to test assumptions and find deeper facts. And Plato shows us that we can help others understand and become more self-aware by having thoughtful conversations with them. And Carl Jung's ideas about the mind are similar to the Stoics' focus on speaking with awareness from a psychological point of view. Jung wrote a lot about the unconscious mind and how words can show and change the unconscious urges that control our behavior. He thought that we can better integrate our psychological parts, which would lead to more wholeness and health by making these urges more conscious through conversation and reflection. The words also have power outside of relationships with other people. It's normal to have negative thoughts about yourself, but they can be especially harmful when they make you feel less motivated and more powerless. On the other hand, Stoic-based positive self-talk can strengthen and inspire. Positive affirmations, which are often suggested in cognitive behavioral therapies, go well with Stoic exercises. It's not about tricking yourself with false statements. These affirmations are about strengthening the strength and resiliency that come from having a Stoic view of control and virtue. By confirming that we can handle we make our Stoic resolve stronger by how we respond and how committed we are to living by our values. So in Stoicism, the power of words is not just an idea, it is deeply applied. It includes the conversations we have with other people, the ones we have with ourselves, and even how we interact with society as a whole. It's up to us to decide whether a word will strengthen or weaken, reveal or hide, heal or hurt. As we continue to work on developing Stoic virtues, let us always be aware of how our words can change us, change other people, and make the world more in line with reason, virtue, and knowledge. Welcome to our deep dive into the depths of Stoic thought. Thank you for joining us today. Remember that the words we use and the things we do shape the way we live a good, meaningful life. As you go through life's challenges, let the knowledge of Stoicism show you the way. Consequently, every problem should be seen as a chance to grow. If you learned something from today's discussion, I encourage you to watch our next movie, which looks at the Stoic way of dealing with problems. It's right here on the screen, so click it to going on our trip. Thank you for watching World Wisdom. Together, we're not only learning new things but also building a strong and wise group.